Academia is more than research output and publications. In this seminar series, we discuss the personal and social aspects of academic work that are not discussed enough. Welcome to Life in Academia.
So, the biggest welcome to our dear colleague, Michael Chamunorwa. Michael is a PhD candidate at the University of Oldenburg in Media Informatics and Multimedia Systems Group. Before joining our university, he was a human-computer interaction researcher in Namibia, where he contributed to work situated at the intersection of ethnography and technology design with marginalized Namibian communities. A significant proportion of his work was executed with the Ovahimba, I hope I pronounce it correct, and it's a nomadic pastoralist ethnic group from northwestern Namibia. As a member of the Indigenous Knowledges Research Cluster from the Namibia University of Science and Technology, he was involved in the exploration of alternative ways of formulating services and products that are useful for digitizing and preserving indigenous knowledge among Namibian communities. Beyond his background, Michael loves to crack jokes among our team, and we absolutely love that he's a part of our group. He's a great researcher whose work has been accepted to international conferences to share his research with the rest of the world. He is from the south of the globe and currently working in the north. And today he wishes to share several bureaucratic challenges he has encountered due to the great divide of global south and north while working in the field of research. We believe that these challenges worth recognition and consideration by all of us. So I present you Michael without making you wait any longer. Let's all send him virtual and real applauses. And Michael, it's your time.
Hi. Well, thanks, Satisha and Gazelle, for the introduction. I didn't expect it to be that long, but yeah. And hi, everyone. I'm super happy and a bit nervous to be here. And the title of my talk is Where Are We Going? As expected, I will speak for a little while and hope for some discussions at the end. But my talk will just proceed as follows. I have to introduce myself and proceed to give a brief background of what inspired today's segment. Thereafter, I will talk about a survey which we did, and then I share the results of that and then open up the floor for discussion. As already said, I'm Michael Chamunorwa, PhD candidate at the University of Oldenburg. I'm in the Media Informatics department, and my research interests are currently in human-computer interaction, technology design, and also improving the accessibility of technologies to ensure that otherwise marginalized communities have access to it at times. I consider myself a nomad, although the team I currently work with have been so awesome that I'm contemplating changing that. Aside from all the computer stuff I do, I also collect lots of music, strange music, and I take photographs of inanimate objects, such as the object you see right now or to the left of the screen. So why are we here? Well, we are here because, believe it or not, researchers, authors, and conference delegates from the global south or from countries that are sometimes considered third nationalities face some very tough challenges navigating the global north when they attend conferences. So this is not only about the financial resources that they have to spend to attend these events, but it's about the whole process that comes when one has to travel from a place in the global south to a place in the global north. So that includes the processes involved in booking for the visa appointment, getting all the necessary documentation, the traveling to an embassy, as well as all the stuff that comes with waiting for the visa outcome. And if you actually do get the visa, then you also go through, the random searches if you are traveling. And what I explained does not only apply to researchers who are still resident in the South, it's still very much prevalent, even if you relocate to the global North and you have all the documentary evidence that shows who you are, your legal status, your qualifications, and where exactly you are going. You still have to go through all those challenges. As you can imagine, this unfavorably skews the playing field, and it negatively affects people who have global South heritage. And it means that sometimes they cannot attend workshops, they cannot attend talks by their peers, or even talks to present their own work. That also means they cannot attend sometimes network events, which their peers from the global North or with global North passports can easily attend. So with that in mind, I will share my very recent experience to give you a picture of how this is, especially for those who might be unfamiliar. So last year, 2022, I submitted a publication. I was the first author at one of the conferences in my field, which was being held in Canada. So the conference was in September, and I got confirmation that my paper had been accepted at the beginning of June. However, unlike my peers with American or European passports, I need a visa to travel to Canada, as with many other places. So that meant I had to apply for the visa. And if you look at the timeline that I'm sharing, you can figure out that, okay, it was June when I got the confirmation. That means I had almost a 3-month gap. And that's kind of more than enough time to apply for and get a visa, right? But, well, not quite. That's not the case. As you will see in the timeline diagram I have here, after the acceptance of my paper, there were a series of, I don't know, I'll call them unfortunate events for now that occurred between June and September. So I did my part of the work, which involved gathering all the documents and certificates I need to apply for the visa. This includes some very personal documents and, proof of who you are. I also talked to my supervisor and my colleagues, and they also did the best they could and provided me all the documents and financial resources that I needed. And this was done right on time, right? So what I needed to proceed to the next step was to book for the visa appointment. But before I can book an appointment, I have to fill a digital application form. And as part of the requirements of that form, I was required to include a telephone number or cell number, plus a Canadian postal address and an invitation letter from the conference. So this is where things just started unraveling. So, okay, for starters, I got a support letter, but it was still a bit difficult to get the phone number and the postal address. We spent the whole month of July, trying to figure out how to navigate this. I talked to some of the co-organizers, co-chairs, and we still could not find, how exactly I can get those details. I mean, you'd think that getting a postal address and a phone number is something that's direct and easy. Turns out it isn't. So, it was more complex than I imagined. Finally, at the end, one of the co-chairs agreed that we use their details, and I took the earliest appointment date available. So during the first week of August, I made the payment. I traveled something like 400 kilometers to the nearest visa center in Berlin. I submitted my documents, and mind you, for the process that took me about several weeks to complete, submitting the documents took less than 10 minutes. So that's another wild part. And then the next part was the most enjoyable, I must say, because I waited the entire August. I waited, for most of September, and the conference started. I still did not have my visa. One of my co-authors has a European visa, has a European passport, so they could travel. That was fortunate. They went, and I stayed behind, still waiting and crossing my fingers that maybe I'll get my visa and perhaps attend the last day of the conference. But yeah, nope, that did not happen. So I totally forgot about the whole thing. The conference ended until sometime late in November. I received a very nice email telling me that, hey, look, send us your passport because you now have the visa. So that's about 5 full months, almost, close to half a year just to obtain a visa. Now, I think some of you might already have thoughts already on this, but trust me, there is still much to be shared. I will give you space to share all your thoughts. So, of course, all this annoyed me, but I wasn't sure what to do about it. I mean, my colleagues and I talked about it countless times. We always used to throw these jokes like, oh, okay, so next time you need a visa, you should apply for the visa, 3 years in advance or something like that. That way you can perhaps get a shot. And I knew that I had to somehow share my experiences to add to the list of to add to the list of existing voices, but I wasn't certain how I could do this. So, in us talking at our roundtable in the office, someone recommended that, oh, okay, why not give a talk during the academia session? But I wasn't sure still how to go about it. That's when someone else, suggested that, okay, maybe make it broader. Instead of making this talk about yourself, why not, try to find more voices? And before I knew it, we were drafting an online survey and trying to get contributions from people all over for this talk. So between December 2022 and January 2023, we shared an online survey, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I'm sure some of you might have come across that. And the survey asked generic questions relating to the experiences of researchers, authors, or conference delegates, especially from the Global South, as they try to navigate the Global North conference space. I will share a summary of our findings here. So as a start, we received 43 responses, and these were split into about 20 nationalities from 6 world regions. The majority of respondents were from Africa, followed by the Middle East, as well as South and Central America. We also had 2 participants who are now naturalized citizens of European countries, but their heritage is African and Middle Eastern. So that means they only changed their citizenship a few years back. And you'll see why this is also important, because despite them being now European technically, or as per their documentations, they still go through some of these challenges because of their heritage. So one of the questions we asked is we start to find out, the number of conferences that our respondents attend per year. And it showed that the majority of the participants usually attend 1 to 2 conferences a year, while there are some who attend, up to 4 conferences. This ultimately means that if the conferences are in different regions, that is, maybe you have one conference in Europe, another in Asia, and another in the Americas, you have to apply for 3 full visas. Now, picture it if it's 3 separate visas, and the waiting time is, like in my case, about 5 months for each. That means there is a high possibility you won't even attend all those conferences, because sometimes you have to surrender your passport, you don't have your passport, and you see it gets a bit shaky already. So I don't think anyone would want to spend their whole year either without their passport or applying or waiting for a visa outcome. And the next question we tried to find details about was how often participants sometimes felt discouraged from, be it submitting their work to a conference or applying to attend a conference or a workshop because of potential visa issues. So for this question, the majority of the respondents indicated that they often felt discouraged to varying extents. This means that in cases where an event is coming up, some potential attendants with Global South passports will often weigh the cost and the benefit, to see whether the benefits versus the visa process, does it make sense for you to go through getting documentation about where you've traveled in the last 5 years? Is it worth it for you to get all that information just so you can, possibly attend a conference? But that also means that if you can't attend, your progression or your career is not going to progress on the same scale as of that person who can easily navigate such spaces and rules. And next, we try to find out how early before a conference people typically apply for their visas. Now, on this question, I think it's also worth noting that the timelines in my own experience, which I shared earlier, it took 5 months to get a visa. So, and if you checked with some conferences, they notify participants more than a month before the event. Others, they might not do so, but depending on the destination and country of your passport, it can take anywhere between a few days to several months for you to get either a visa appointment or the visa itself. And as you can see, at least 90% of respondents from our survey indicated that they have to apply for the visa at least a month before, provided they have all the support documents. The process is typically linear. You cannot submit the application before you provide this piece of document, or you cannot get this piece of document before you have proven that, okay, yes, I have a paper, which is it's always a chicken and egg. So this can sometimes mean you, like I said, you surrender your passport for the duration of the application, which is an inconvenience because not having your passport as well for extended periods of time in a foreign country is not a prospect that anyone would be really interested in having. And we dug deeper. We also try to find out about the type of support that participants receive from the conference organizers. And this question was broad and allowed for participants to either just state either yes or no, or give other quantified or qualified responses. And the majority of respondents, around 60%, say that they do get support, whilst about 12% were on the fence, because while they do get some support, it's either insufficient or it sometimes comes too late. 28% stated that they don't receive any support. So it is a conference, you have to figure out your way to get there. From this, we can already see that it becomes a challenge to even apply for the visa if the conference or the host cannot vouch for your presence. There's a high possibility that your application will just be denied. There's also the consideration about time and delayed support documents, because if you get your documents late, then again, it just still adds on to the waiting time you still have to spend. And it diminishes the chances of either securing the visa or completely, or even getting it on time. All right. And because we asked for details about support from conference organizers or hosts, we felt that it's also fair to find out if, like in the academic space, whether our respondents get support from their employers or from their faculties. So this is also broad because what we consider to be support included, any support letters, and where applicable, whether there's a provision for funds or agents who are able to handle the visa application process on behalf of the applicants. So this question presented some interesting results for us, as we found out that quite a number of respondents claim that they do not receive support from their employers. And I'm perhaps one of the lucky ones who gets, more than ordinary support from my employer and my supervisors. And as you know, even with that amount of support, things still went hairy for me. I couldn't get the visa I need on time. So now try to imagine how it is for those who get absolutely no support from their from their employer, or who get no support from the conference organizers. It ultimately means that, they have nowhere to go. They cannot go anywhere. So finally, we asked the participants whether they've ever missed a conference. And we also gave a few reasons that they could choose. There were 5 possible answers, which were mutually inclusive. The options were, okay, I missed a conference because my visa was rejected outright, or I did get a visa, but it was too late, or I missed the conference or my talk because there were significant delays at the airport, including being detained or being held back for questioning by immigration officials. And the last one was they could not apply for the visa because there was insufficient documentation, be it from the conference organizers or from their employer. So for this question, we had 39% of the respondents indicating that they missed at least one conference because of all 4 reasons in the past. And we had 25% who missed the conference only because the visa was issued late, and 14% were delayed at airports only, and only about 2% had the reason for missing a conference being a visa rejection only. So there were also those who avoided applying altogether because they could not get an appointment at the consulate, or they had no funds for the visa, or they had past experiences that made them just, ignore, forget about the whole process. So I'm sure you can see some pattern forming here. If one manages to apply for the visa, it's not the end of it all. They still have to contend with all those other factors, such as the discretion of the immigration officials. In a lifetime, you will probably experience at least one or more of those reasons I shared, despite your best efforts to submit your application on time, giving all the documentation, proof, and evidence, or traveling with all the required information. So if you are a person from the Global South, there is a high possibility you will encounter one or more of those issues. Now, where does that leave us? So this brings us to the final parts of the data we collected. We asked some free text questions, where we wanted our participants to shed a bit more light about their experiences, about the sentiments regarding the whole visa application process. We asked how the current process makes them feel, many of the times. We received about 43 of these responses from all the participants, and I've taken just a few of those excerpts from the free text, and here is the first. The whole process is stressful and sometimes dehumanizing. Having to write a letter almost pleading to present your work is embarrassing. It's also time consuming, and I've since resolved to never present in the US or the UK. Another participant said, it's time consuming, it's expensive, it's very irritating, and most of all, this disadvantages me from the point of view of opportunity cost. The days I've spent on visas are time that my non-Global South peers could be using to substantially advance their careers, such as writing papers, etc. It's another obstacle that I face as an academic from the Global South. Now, just for perspective, I had to submit something like 43. In total, I counted, it's all the documents, including the copies and everything, it was something like 43 pages of stuff. So that should put this comment in perspective. And like I said, there were 43 responses, some which I did not include verbatim, but we took some of the keywords from them and we ran them through a word cloud, and we got something like that. as you can see in the graphic. Looking at the most prominent words, we can see that quite a number of the sentiments pointed towards the process being expensive, the process being frustrating, unfair, demotivating, stressful, and cumbersome. Now think about that for a second. I mean, given what you see, given those motions and emotions, for part of your career, would that bring out the best in you when you each year or each fraction of the year, you have to consider whether you want to apply or not? So we then closed off by asking for contributions on possible solutions. Now on this, I have to maybe state that we are not promising that what the participants shared is, a super solution, and we are not saying that we are superheroes in even talking about these potential solutions. We are not that ambitious, but we just want to use the responses as the basis for any discussions or talking that can be done. If things cannot be easily changed on a very higher level, because like you see in all the information I've shared right now, it's stuff that's happening, sometimes at a very higher level. So if things cannot be changed on that level, then surely we can try to change them on the lower level. And that's with the conference organizers, that's with the academic institutions. They can try to implement or institute changes on things that they have control of. They can do better than maybe some of them are already doing now, So the quote on the screen is something that I kept on seeing recurring in, different flavors. So, and I've also had this discussion with other some of my peers and friends, where the talk is always, okay, conference organizers should work harder to organize conferences in, countries that have visa-friendly regimes, or at least improve the support that they give to participants or delegates who come from countries that don't have, strong enough passports. And like I said, it's a chicken and egg problem, because some documentation is impossible to secure before you register, and then the registration opens, and you see, so it's a bit of blame on multiple sides, which all ultimately leads to the series of unfortunate events that I shared earlier. We also had more contributions or suggestions, and it's about visa conferences happening in visa-friendly countries, or maybe they should be special conference visas. Also, sponsors could do more with helping with the application process, or support letters being issued out early. And there was more content on this, but we went further. We just took also the keywords to try and figure out where the sentiments lie. And it seems they also still gravitate towards, the process being improved to make it more inclusive and offering more support than is currently being done. Okay, so I'm sure I've spoken your ears sore by now, and it's almost time up. But before we start the discussion, I just have to clarify some things. So me sharing my experiences is not a claim that I'm the first to go through this, nor am I claiming that I'm special, I deserve special treatment. No, I know there's countless who've experienced this or even more, right? My talk is to just add a voice to all those that have, so that those who have the privilege can understand and perhaps push for more change, to do so with examples that they are aware of. I also have to acknowledge and thank those who are already going out of their way. They're taking the extra mile to help their colleagues, their graduate students or employees with all the support that they need when they are applying for the visa. I encourage those who currently do not offer such to reconsider and give more support. Lastly, I know the issues I raise here are multifaceted. the potential solutions do not rest entirely with the academic institutions or the bodies that are responsible for organizing conferences. I understand that many of the problems are structural and policy wide, and there's perhaps a bit of politics playing. But I strongly believe that the academic institutions and conference organizers can improve the experiences if they understood the laws of the countries or the lands where they host their conferences, and also take note of what usually happens to people from the different countries or the disadvantaged countries. If they understood this better, then maybe we might be having a different discussion now. But us having this chat already, it's on something that has been happening for years, is proof that perhaps there is somewhere where the understanding is getting lost. I mean, everyone talks about inclusivity or diversity, but clearly we can see that it's not sufficient, or it's not at a level where everyone is comfortable or can easily navigate some of these spaces. So yes, my current experiences as a person from the global South cannot be compared with the experiences of those who took this journey before me, but I'm still experiencing some of the challenges that they've gone through. And it's, for me at least, it's concerning. And I feel it should also be concerning to others, to say, okay, if this has been discussed countless times over the last decade, then why isn't it changing? What can we do to make it change? So I will then close off by, asking, where are we going to go? Where are we going with this? If there is not much that's changing, then what are we even doing? What are we even hoping for? Where are we going? So, yep, that's all I have for you. I have the floor open for questions.
Thank you very much, Michael.